Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Bird's Eye View, the real stories of overseas basketball. I'm your host, Erica McCall, and I'm so excited for this first episode. If you don't know me, I am a fifth year WNBA veteran playing for the Washington Mystics. I was picked up in 2017 by the Indiana Fever, and most importantly, I played 4 years of overseas basketball in Hungary with the same team. We'll get to that later because that's a tremendous experience on its own. But the reason why I want to bring this show to you guys, because everywhere I go in America, somewhere around the world, people are asking me, what is overseas basketball like? And I want to bring to you guys stories and highlight different experiences from my friends around in the overseas basketball world and let them tell their stories to you. I mean, getting asked, what's the food like? What's the basketball like? What's the traveling like? I mean, the list goes on. So I wanted to create a podcast for fans, basketball fans around the world to be able to understand what these experiences are like. So each episode will have a different topic and will highlight a certain experience of what the basketball experience is like. And so today's episode is no other than basketball. Basketball is my favorite sport. I like the way you dribble up and down the court. Yes. Today's topic is basketball. Of course, I just wanted to do a little intro about what this whole life is all about. And so I wanted to bring in the guest who knows a lot about basketball herself. The guest is no other than my Washington Mystics teammate, Bud for Life, Pac-12 enemy, Sydney Wiese.
Bird.
Sid, how are you?
Bird, I am wonderful. I feel so honored to be your first guest on your podcast.
Yes.
Super excited about this. And I also love how you included at the very, very end that we are Pac-12 enemies, because I think that's important, because that's
Absolutely.
a lifetime thing. But beyond that, now we're finally teammates, and there is so much joy in that alone. So I'm happy to be with you, Bird.
Absolutely. Now, Sid, let me give the people a little intro about who you are, because you're a pretty darn spectacular person on and off the court.
You're too much. Too much.
So you're a fifth year WNBA veteran. We are the same class. You were drafted first round in 2017, where I was as well, sitting right next to you.
Yep.
To the Los Angeles Sparks. And currently you're my teammate with the Washington Mystics. Actually, did you know, Sid, that last year you were ranked fourth in the whole WNBA in three-point shooting percentage? Pretty darn spectacular. And my favorite facts of them all, overseas experience. Sid, your overseas experience is amazing. In 2017 through the 2018 season in Australia, you won a championship, and you also played in Spain, in Israel. Sid, what has been the overseas basketball life been for you?
Ooh, Bird. I know there's you're going to be hearing so many stories about overseas, your own experiences included. I have really enjoyed the opportunity to travel the world and be in different places in the world because of basketball. Each season has presented its own challenges and obstacles. Every basketball season has that. Every season is full of adversity, whether it's on or off the court. But I have been very fortunate to go to really cool countries. And unlike you, where you've been on the same team your entire overseas experience, I've gone to a different country each season and been with different people, been in a different culture each season. But I think overall, I'm just grateful for each lesson that each season has brought to me, each experience, the people that I've been able to meet, the different styles of basketball. It's overall, like, I look back and I'll always be grateful for these years to play basketball overseas.
Absolutely, man. I mean, overseas basketball is a journey.
the best
and
way
you
to
go
put it.
through a lot of ups and downs. And one of the downs and difficulties of it, at least in my experience, has been adjusting from playing in America to playing overseas. So, what are some of the difficulties and adjustments that you have to do for yourself?
I think my first year overseas, I was in Australia. So we went from, I mean, we both experienced it where it was from you had a great run in college, straight to the draft, straight to a WNBA season, straight to overseas. Like you might have had like a couple days in between each thing that took place. And
Yes.
I went into the Australian, when I was signing the contract to go to Australia, I was looking for honestly like a shorter overseas season because I could tell like I was going to be tired. I was tired just from college straight to the WNBA and then right overseas. And
I
so I was
understand.
fortunate because yes, Australia is a
Right.
shorter season. So I got there like mid beginning of October and I was there until like the beginning of February. So like
Right.
it was a short season. But I think looking back, I would love to go back to Australia because I had the whole time I was like counting down when I could go home because I was just so tired.
Yes.
And so with like basketball wise, like the motivation that I had like for our group was like, we need to win the championship because we're gonna make this thing worth it, you know?
Absolutely.
And yes, and basketball wise, I think the transition from not only like college to the pros and then pros in a different country, I for sure came in with this perspective of like, I know how to play basketball and I am here to show your country
Yes.
what I can bring to the table. And
Right.
I quickly learned in that season how freaking good
Yeah.
overseas basketball players are. Like in
Absolutely.
each country. And Australia taught me that really quick. Like they are some of the best basketball players in the world.
Yeah, because I know for myself, you hear of all these Americans averaging 25 points, when they go to their overseas team. So immediately I'm thinking coming into my, I'm top dog. I'm going to get all the shots. I'm the best player on this team. And you learn very quickly that is quite the contrary.
Yes. And I think too, the stark contrast in each country, because there are some countries that it's easier to average those amount of points. And
Right.
not to take away from the women who are getting
Absolutely.
buckets, like they are getting buckets and it's a different mindset that you have overseas. And then
Right.
for Australia, when I was there, it was a very team oriented approach, which I was also looking for as well, because I was not ready to step into that grown
Yeah.
women mindset of like, I
As a
don't care who's
rookie.
around me. Yes, I don't care who's around me. I'm gonna get buckets. Like
Yes.
that's never really been my style, anyways. And so I appreciated that. I learned quickly these women do not mess around. They're really good. Also,
Right.
it's not going to be easy for me to just like score 15 or 20 a night. Like
Right.
I have a lot to learn.
Right. And that's the thing when you constantly keep saying women, like these are grown women. They've got kids, spouses, they
Other
could be
jobs.
in other jobs 10 to 15
Yeah.
years older than you and still balling. Like it's a
Yes.
different experience overseas.
Yeah. And I think up until that point, like we play people generally our age, like a 4 year, at most like 4 years older than us because of high school or because of
Right.
college. And then you get to this level and you understand like, okay, they might not have what they used to have physically, but their mind is all that they need to set them apart. And you're
Yeah.
you're getting picked apart by people who are like 10, 15 years older than you on
Yeah.
both ends of the floor. And you're like, oh, okay. So this is professional basketball.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not only are they picking on you because they know that you're young, they pick on you because you're an American. And they know that
That
Americans, we
part.
have this mindset, Americans, that we are just the best country and we are the best players. And so
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times, like I said, we go into situations like that thinking that we're just going to be top dog. And those overseas
No.
players humble you quickly.
Yes. Quickly. And I I mean, there were multiple moments where I was frustrated with myself because you do come in with that mindset of, it's my job to be here and produce for this team.
Yes.
Like if it's not scoring, I have to do something. And so I think that's difficult as a young player, because you don't even really understand or realize how much you have to learn, but you're hoping that while you're out there, you can use what you do have to still be good enough to produce individually and for the group. And sometimes it doesn't look like that. And you're like, you question yourself as a basketball player, because you're like, I don't even know if I'm really cut out for this. Do they have the patience for a young player to learn? Because apparently I have a lot to learn out here, but they need me to make stuff happen. So what do you do?
So what was the pressure like when you were a rookie, when you played in Australia? Because I know for me, I just had all this pressure on myself, because you have such high expectations. Like you gotta ball out, this is your profession. You're an American, you're expected to produce at a high level every single day. So I know that pressure really bothered me for the first couple months overseas. Was that the same for you?
I think I put a lot of the pressure on my own shoulders, because I came in, like we just talked about, I'm going to come in and be that American. Like I'm being brought over here with a purpose, and I'm going to force the issue to make sure that happens, not understanding like even the style of Australian basketball and how they do play. They like to move the ball. They like to get a lot of actions in, and it's not a lot of pressure individually to just like go get buckets. And so I had to step into a new system, coming out of a new system in the WNBA, and then 4 years of being in the same system. So you and I can relate, because I feel like Stanford and Oregon State, like it's a very intense system of basketball where all the pieces work together. And you figure out your role. And it's like, that is your muscle memory, is like, I know this is what I'm doing every single day. And then you leave that, you go to the WNBA, and then you go overseas, and you're almost like relearning how to play basketball freely, because you're still used to that system. And so I felt that for sure my first couple months. And then I got there late, so I didn't get any type of like practices, like a full practice window, because they had already been practicing for like a month, but because of our season, didn't have that window. So you're just thrown into the mix, like catch up on the fly. And I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself to like make things happen.
And apparently you did, because you guys won a championship in your rookie year. So
I was surrounded by really good players. Like I am so grateful, because like they were all really great basketball players, but they were also very awesome women, and they helped me along the way. I got to know them as people, got to know their families. And so they made the experience what it was. And we were able to genuinely get that championship, like as a collective unit, which was also really cool to experience. And that, I think, also became my mindset of overseas, was like, oh, wherever I'm at, we're going to win championships every season, like for sure. And then after that, like the next couple of years of playing overseas, I was like, I definitely appreciate that championship in Australia, because I think that's been my last championship, like since I left college. Like that was my championship. And then obviously like WNBA overseas, like it's been dry seasons, man. So I look back and I'm like, yep, that
boy, do
nice.
I know. Boy, do I know. We'll get into that maybe another episode. But break down that championship series that was in Australia. Like break down what the system is like, what it took for you guys to get there, and just the playing experience, the fan experience. What was all like?
Yeah, so I think because it was a shorter season, that's depending on the country. Sometimes like you could I feel like almost every country could have a shorter season, but they really love to draw it out. They don't, like, some countries only play one time a week, and so you have a full week of practices, one game, and then you go into the next week of your routine of practicing, and then one game a week, which can make things really long. Here in Australia, because it was more condensed, like I still think we had 30-ish games, but we had like 2 games a week. So there was a lot more action happening like in season. It helped time go by a little bit faster, because it wasn't just like you're spending a week in practice, like busting your butt for 5 days to play. And then if you lose, you're just like, oh gosh, that works.
For those who do not know, if you only play 1 game a week overseas, an 8-month season can feel like 2 years.
Not even exaggerating. Like, we're not even trying to be dramatic.
it draws out. Games help the weak move faster. And that's what you
Truly,
need. More games, more days off. It just, it helps you. It helps the
it
whole
helps.
experience.
Travel days, yes,
Yes.
everything. So because of that, because our season was condensed, we had travel days, we had more games a week. And then I'm trying to remember what the playoff format was like. I think we were either first or second when we finished going into playoffs. And it was a 3-game series, like for the semis and then into the final series. And I think the first series we won 2 games right away. And then we were in the final series and it ended up going to a game 3, which was a lot of fun because we won the championship on our home floor. And
Yes. What city did you play
there
in
was
again?
Townsville.
Townsville. Okay.
So it's in Queensland. It's like
Mhm.
where the Great Barrier Reef is at. So it's like northeastern Australia. Gosh, my geography, it's been so long.
I just know Australia, so
Yes.
great.
When I heard Townsville too, I was like, where is that place?
Yeah.
But we had, it was a small, it wasn't like a big city like Sydney or Melbourne. Like it was a smaller town. So we had awesome fan support. It
Right.
was sold out when we were in the
Incredible.
game 3 of the championship series. And people would recognize you around town because like I said, it's small. And so they were like, great game the other day. Like it really
Yeah.
felt super at home and comfortable, and like you felt like a part of the community and that they really cared for you. And so that's what made it so special to win the championship on our home floor.
Right. Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about, playing in a small country or not a small country in Hungary for sure, but within that, a small town. You feel like a celebrity. Everyone said you're walking down the street, everyone's waving hi to you. They're congratulating you for, the game from last night. You see them in the grocery store. Like it's a different experience compared to like, I don't know if it was similar for you when at Oregon State, you're probably the hot shots celebrity, there. But
It was a small town, so I had a similar experience at Corvallis as
well,
well.
okay. But I know if you play in bigger cities, bigger countries, you're
In
just
person.
treated like any other citizen that lives there. So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, you've played for 3 different countries overseas. So talk a little about the differences. I mean, Australia, they speak English there, so it's kind of an easier adjustment to adjust to a lot of the systems with basketball and just interacting with people in general. But how is it like when you played in Israel and Spain?
Mm-hmm. I think like I said, I was definitely spoiled in Australia.
Mhm.
Didn't realize it at the time, but like going into my next season overseas in Israel, I was like, oh, okay. Because it was my first experience being in a country where like I would look at billboards and it would be in Hebrew. So like you can't even, and it's not like, it's not letters, like it's not English letters. So you look at it and
Yes,
you're
that's
like,
right.
I have no idea. I can't even like begin to decipher what these symbols are
Yeah.
saying. And then I think you probably experienced this too. Like, when you're about to like get on that final flight to like the country you're going to, and you stop hearing English speaking. Like you no longer hear it on the plane. You don't hear it from the flight attendants. You don't hear it. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know the next time I'm going to hear English casually.
Yep.
And that's what I felt going to Israel. I
Mhm.
kept hearing Hebrew around me in the airport, getting on the plane.
Right.
And it's pretty overwhelming because you just feel like you don't, almost like discombobulated, like you don't really fit in with what's happening, but you're going exactly to the same place as everybody
Right.
else.
Absolutely.
And then you don't really know what to expect basketball wise, because will people be able to speak English? Will I need a translator? Is there pretty decent English? Like what's going to be happening
Mhm.
in the heat of a game? Like when your natural like default language is a different language, are we going to be able to communicate in that? Like,
Yes.
so many different things. And I think I got to a team that the coach spoke decent English, but when he would yell at the Israeli players, like he changed it to speak Hebrew. So you could just hear the tone, but you had
Yeah.
no idea what he was saying. Um, And then like whenever he would talk to the Americans, like he would speak in English, and then my teammates
Mhm.
spoke really, really good English for the most part. But like whenever there would be side conversations, sometimes you just sort of like learn to mind your business, because
Yes.
people will communicate, like teammates will communicate
Yes.
in their language, and you're like, I'm not even gonna ask questions.
And you're
like,
just
do your
hanging
thing.
out until you hear some
And then,
English. That's
exactly.
how it happens.
And then they'll talk to you as if they've been talking to you the whole time, and you're like, you were speaking a completely different language. How
That's
am I
weird time.
supposed to follow that?
Right.
Are you talking?
What was that?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay. Is that what you said in Spain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Va. Okay.
Love
Yeah, it's
it.
constant.
Now, that was another question I was going to ask you. As a PG, you got to know all the plays, where everybody is in the play. I'm very fortunate as a post player. I just got to know 4 and 5 do. I know I should know where everybody is,
Of
but
course.
sometimes there's just so many plays and you
Yeah.
just know your positions. But you,
Yes.
as a PG, you got to know everything. And so I'm wondering how that was, trying to communicate with your teammates, trying to get the play right. And when a coach wrote up a play in a huddle, what experience is that like?
I think because of overseas basketball, you've been fortunate because your position has been consistent. I have played mainly 2 and 3 overseas, or like a combination of like 1, 2, 3, and sometimes the 4 bird. I played the 4 in Israel.
Big guard.
No, respect. That is a completely different mindset. Wild. We'll get into that. But like, because of playing point guard at Oregon State and most of my life, that is always on, like when it comes to like the mental component of learning plays, is trying to understand each position, even if I'm not handling the ball. And so I think I had to learn that in Australia, because they brought me in mainly as like a 2-3, because usually the Americans, depending on the style of each country, the point guard is literally just a distributor, like setting the table and then getting people in position. They need us over there to score and to create from different spots. And so I had to learn, that was another adjustment for me, was I don't have the ball in my hands to create off the dribble. How can I use my body to stop and go, to create space without having the ball in my hands, which like doesn't sound difficult, but it's like completely different than the point guard position, which I learned, Bird. Oh my gosh. And so I think in Israel, it started to click my 3rd year in Spain, where I would see the coach draw up certain plays, or I would communicate things of like, hey, I think this could work. And so that PG mindset turned back on, and I felt a little bit more confident in like what we're trying to do as a group more quickly, because I think I was just trying to find my footing my first 2 years individually. And then that 3rd year in Spain, I could finally like put my 2 cents in of like understanding the professional game quickly and understanding like what Spain style was like. So I could put my perspective in of like, okay, I think this could work. Let's put the ball here, this, that, the other. And so it's been a learning curve for me to learn 1 through 3 in different countries.
For sure. Absolutely. And talk a little bit about Spanish basketball, because if you've seen Spanish basketball through the Olympics or some type of international tournament, it's a different style of basketball. A lot of people say it's fast paced, it's cut and goes. It's very different from traditional basketball you may see in America, or even just a different country. Like Spain has their own style of play.
They sure do. And they work hard.
Yeah.
I got there once again because of our season. So most times, like, we don't get there when the team begins their practices. And so we're just jumping in, like, and trying to blend in or like work our way into the systems seamlessly. And I'll never forget, like, my first practice there. I think I had landed the day before. I get on the court.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's how they do
and
it.
It's like, all right, you ready for practice? And it's
they
like,
allow
I don't
you
know
6
what
hours
day
of sleep.
it is.
Yep.
Exactly. And the team was on one end of the floor doing like, it was their night practice. So I think they had a morning practice and then it was their night practice. So they were only doing like half court, 5-on-5 actions. And I was on the other end, just getting shots up, like trying to like move a little bit. And I was winded for the shots. Like we were moving around and I was like, "Ooh, okay, it's been a while." Cause like we were coming out of playoffs. So, it's different. Like when you're practicing for playoffs and practice in general, like for the WNBA is not always like difficult. And so and my coach was like, "Oh, you'll be in shape. Like you were just in playoffs." And I was like, "Listen, it's different."
I don't think how people really think about how different playoff style practices compared to regular season practices. They're way more chill, way more lax. You're just really going over your opponent's, plan set, what you're going to do, and get some shots up.
It's a lot
of
video. Yeah, it's a lot of film, like, because it's at the end of the season. And so you've been through all the wars, all the practices. So now it's like fine tuning the details mentally. So then your body is fresh when you're out there. So like, you're not really practicing. And then that like game shape is different than being in like practice shape.
Yes.
And so I was in game shape where I could play for like 3-4 minutes hard and then, sub out. So when we started practicing, I said, this is going to be a season because they went so hard. Like, and I loved it. I loved how hard they went each possession, like competing at such a high level. Their physicality, their speed, their change of speed, how shifty they are. Like Spanish basketball, they move so differently. And if you remember Maite Cazorla, she was a guard at Oregon when we played in the Pac-12, all of us. And her defense, like, because she's used to those types of guards that move in such different ways, she could guard Americans easily because like it's not like it's just different basketball. And so I learned that, like, I saw how like Maite's style was like, that was Spanish basketball, was being able to play physical, quick defense in your face, quick hands, and then come on the other end of the floor and give you the spin cycle like it was no big deal, while also finishing it with contact at the rim. I said, who are these guards? Who are these Spanish guards? It was crazy. I hate
playing Spanish teams.
Yeah, Spanish basketball is like it's become one of my favorite styles to play. Like I really enjoyed playing in Spain.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Spanish basketball is incredible. I remember we played overseas. I can't remember what team it was, but we lost by 40 points.
It was a Spanish different team.
Say it again.
It was a Spanish team.
Yes, a Spanish team, and it was just really hard to guard.
And the way that they move without the ball too. It's not just with the ball.
That's
but like
the key to Spanish basketball.
Yeah.
How you move without the ball. Post players, guards, everyone. And the way that they can pass it, like you'll get back cut without even realizing it, and the ball is already going to your person who's like laying it up, and you completely thought they were going to be doing something else. Like, and that's what makes it so difficult, is because of how physical they are and how quickly they change. Like they read the defense so well that the defense is always wrong. Yes. Spanish basketball is high IQ basketball.
Yes. And they sort of make it look like flashy sometimes because they do these no look passes, but it's literally them, like they're just playing and they know like that person's going to be there, so I can look away easily, make that pass, we're running back on defense. And
hey man, you don't have to do all that. Just made a simple pass.
I'm already embarrassed, but like noted. Okay, great. Yeah.
All right. So you talked a little bit about the practices. Take me through any country you want. What a typical practice day would be like.
I'll do Spain. I can do a little bit.
You can do a
compare
contrast if you want.
Yeah. So Australia, it was like a morning lift and shoot around. So this is like early on in the week, like I would say a couple days before a game. So you have some time to recover. Morning lift, and then to a shooting workout, and then an evening practice as a team. And that would be like 2 times a week if we didn't have 2 games that week.
Mhm.
And then the rest of it would be like an evening practice, because some of the women on our team had jobs, and so they would only be able to do like an evening practice. And so in most countries, actually, like, we had evening practices everywhere that I've been, just because like they're real
Same.
people there. So
Yep.
it's like they finish their day at the gym. Israel was really easy. That was probably the country that I struggled with, like, having a normal sleep schedule the most, because we would not practice until like 7 p.m. sometimes, or like 6
No.
p.m.
I
That would
hate
be
late
our only
practices.
practice. Yeah. And that would be our only practice for the day, because the gyms, we would practice at like the school gym. So like they would have school there all day, and then they would have handball. They would have different sports going on. So your window was so
It's hard
small.
to get yourself going if you wait all day to practice.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Which is why I would go to sleep, because of the time difference. I sometimes I wouldn't go to sleep until 6 a.m. I would sleep until like 3 p.m. and then I'd eat something and go to practice.
This is why you are like this now. If you guys don't know, Sydney Wiese sleeping schedule is she sleeps
Trash.
when she wants. And then
I
it's usually at least 2 a.m.
It's not at the normal hours of operation for our society. So I am learning. I'm getting better, Bird, but like Israel did not help that cause. So only was there for that season, went to Spain. It was a little bit more structured in Spain. And I because of Israel, I was like anticipating, oh, I'll be able to go to sleep late, get up late. And no, literally, it was sort of like Australia, where we would have lifting in the morning, sometimes a shooting practice, sometimes like an actual practice after lifting, and then like an evening shooting practice. So for the most part, we would have our practice in the morning, and then sometimes we would have like a second practice in the evening, or we would have just some shooting, or we'd have it off. And Spain was one of those countries. We were actually in Euro Cup too, so we did play 2 times a week for the most part, which was really helpful because of travel. And but if we would have had a lot of 2-a-days, which I am, thank you, good sweet Lord, that we were traveling, because those practices,
Yes.
Yeah, no joke, man.
Right. And for those who don't know what Euro Cup and EuroLeague, these are 2 different leagues outside of your country's league. So it's made up of teams all around Europe. EuroLeague is the highest league that you can play in Europe, and then Euro Cup is right underneath it. And so typically, if you play in Euro Cup or EuroLeague, you have a game through your country's league, and then a couple of days later you'll have a game through the Euro Cup or Euro League, and that really helps the season move. And through that you get to play throughout Europe. You'll get to play in Israel, Turkey, Russia, Hungary, Slovakia. The list goes on. You can play in
everywhere.
Yeah, playing in those leagues really allow you to get to explore Europe in ways that you typically wouldn't if you just played in your country's league.
And also experience all the different types of basketball. Like when you play France, it's different. When you play Hungary, it's different. And so it really challenges you as a basketball player to like bring your country's style to the table, and then see how you can match up against the best in Europe. And it's really a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be a part of.
Cool. Well, last question, Sid. What has been your favorite country to play in? And why?
am going to be, and why? I'm going to be politically correct and say I have been grateful for each country that I've been able to experience, for various reasons. I think with Australia, it being my first experience overseas, how much I learned, how much I ended up enjoying, because I was really hesitant about like, what is overseas going to be like? And to have Australia as my first experience, the people there, the basketball, the culture, it was so much fun, and the perfect amount of time for my first experience. And then Israel, I always wanted to visit Israel as a person, just for like tourist purposes. And I was able to, like, when you're in these countries, like, you're not a tourist, you're an actual, like you live there for months. And so you become somewhat of like a temporary resident, and you get to experience the culture. And so to experience the Shabbats every Friday and Saturday, how the pace of the country is different. Like you actually like have that day of rest that the whole country takes, and you don't practice, you don't like, you take that time. And so to experience authentic Shabbat dinners with some of my teammates and their families, like that's something that you can tell your kids about one day, that you can share with your family when you go back home. So that the unique culture of Israel, and then the basketball within itself, it taught me a lot. Like that was, I think, a more of just self-discovery process of what am I going to be like as a professional basketball player? What does that look like? And that year for me was a lot of self-discovery. So I'm really grateful for the lessons there. And then Spain was when things started to come together a little bit more.
Yes.
And I started to find my rhythm as a professional, find my footing. And I just love the basketball, like I talked about. And my teammates, my team there, they were so awesome. It was another like small city type vibe too. So there, we had a lot of fan support, and the people, Spain is beautiful. The country, the basketball is top notch, like some of the best in the world. And so each game demanded your best. And so I've loved every single country that I've been able to go to. Next season, I'm going to Italy. So that's going to be a whole different experience. Yeah, I'm going to go to Italy. So I've always been wanting to play there too. And that's really good basketball there. Very fast. You know, that European brand. And then who else? I have no idea what else is going to be there. I'm going to figure it out and I'll let you know, Bert. But yeah, overseas it's not for everybody, but I'm so sorry. I just got a call.
Go ahead.
All right. Am I with you again?
You're with me.
Okay. Just making sure. I'm so sorry. Overseas is worth it. Like it is so much fun to be able to experience it.
I agree.
To play basketball with and against the best, to make lifelong friends, new family. It's awesome. It's awesome. So yeah, I'll keep you posted of what Italy is like. Yes.
Well, Sid, the interview is not fully over because now we have some fun opportunities for you. I'm really excited for this one. We've got a game. It's called the Slanguage Test. And I'm going to test you with some Australian slang, because for those of you who do not know, Australians speak English, but it's very different. So I'm going to ask you some vocab words, and hopefully you will have the right answer to these words. Are you ready?
No, I'm not.
Here. You're not ready. Here it is.
No.
More Jeopardy cards. All right.
Let me sip some water. I'm ready.
All right. I got 6 words for you. Let's see how many you get out of 6. Okay. Number 1, Sheila.
Lady, woman.
Ding, ding, ding. Correct. Look at you. See? Okay.
Up to a strong start.
Now, this is my favorite one. I love when I talk to Australians and they call them these thongs.
Flip flops.
Yes. We're not talking the fancy underwear.
Thong. Yeah.
Thong song, one of my faves. Okay, I hope I pronounced this one right. Is it Dunny or Dooney?
Dunny. I think it's the bathroom or the toilet.
Yes. Wow, Sid, you're a true Australian.
It's coming back to me. It's all coming back to me.
Now, I love this one when I looked it up. This one's called Macca's.
McDonald's.
Yes. Wow, Sid. So can you use that in a sentence for me? Like,
hey, I'm gonna go to Macca's to get some brekkie. Would you want some?
Brekkie. I love it. I'm realizing they don't like to use whole words out there in Australia.
They try and make it super simple.
Okay.
Super simple.
Brekkie. Okay. This one is your 4 for 4. This is number 5. It's frothy.
Frothy. Can you use it in a sentence?
I'm going to a bar and I'm going to drink a frothy.
A beer.
Yes. But my context clues gave it away.
Yeah, you sure did. And I appreciate that. But I literally was gonna say, I mean, that's it describes a drink, but I know they wouldn't just say like that as a descriptive word. It would actually like, okay. I would have gotten it wrong, but I appreciate your cue.
I'm gonna give you 4.5 for that. A 0.5 for that. Okay, last one. Chook. Or
chook.
choke. No, I think it's,
Choke.
I'm going to say CHOOK.
Choke. Oh my gosh. My friends from Australia are going to be mad at me. I don't know. I don't know.
I hope I'm pronouncing this right.
Choke. I don't know this one.
Okay, this one is chicken.
Chicken? What?
That's what it's.
Oh my gosh.
I went to several websites and this word was on there and it says it means chicken.
Well, it's
Were you eating chicken
probably
out there in
right.
Australia?
Yeah, but I called it chicken. I never heard chook before. I'm gonna text my Australian friends and
Please,
say, what the heck? Chook?
please. And
Oh,
when I talk to
brutal.
you tomorrow, because I'll see you tomorrow,
I practice.
I'll ask you if we can get a confirmation of that word.
Yeah, I'll make sure to text them right now and say, hey, or we could text Lay and say, Lay, what is chook?
Yes. We have an Australian teammate. She's actually playing in the Olympics with the Australian national team, Leilani Mitchell, and she's Australian. So we're gonna ask her what chook means. I hope
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
not
get
saying like
confirmation.
some racial, discriminatory word. You're like chook. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry if I offended anyone.
Did I do something wrong? I did that sometimes too. Like I think Kiwi is a phrase that they call New Zealanders.
Mm-hmm.
And they did the same thing with me for like a media thing where they tested me on like my vocab, like Australian
Yes.
vocab, and they said Kiwi, and I was like, a fruit. And they were like, no, it's a New Zealander. And I said, and I hope I'm correct on that. Like, I hope I did not forget. And the same thing. So a lot of things. That's another thing too. We do our best. And if we make a mistake, we apologize and we learn.
Yes. When I first went to Hungary, I learned what the word pussy meant.
Mean.
Take a guess. It's okay. I don't want you to say anything inappropriate, but it means kiss. So, when you'll say kisses,
Like puss
kisses, I
puss.
mean,
Yeah.
yes, we don't really say it on the phone as Americans, but I know in other countries, they'll be like kisses, hugs, when he or exiting
XOXO.
a phone call. And so when I was first in Hungary, I'm listening to my teammate talk. It's literally my first day in Hungary. I'm listening to my teammate talk to her boyfriend, and she ends the conversation with pussy, pussy. And I'm like, these are some freaking people here. All the old ladies were saying it to me after the game. Pussy, pussy. I'm like, old ladies too. Oh my Lord.
Can someone tell me what this means? Because it has to mean something else. It has to mean something else.
I shortly learned that pussy means kisses. It's a term of endearment.
You learn something new every day you're overseas.
Every day. Well, so this is my favorite part of the show. It's the last part. And it's the story of the day. I want you to tell me, what is the craziest overseas experience you went through? Because I get crazy stories when I ask this question to people. So I want to hear yours. I think it's going to be good.
Oh gosh. Well, I think my craziest overseas season was Israel. We went through, so the style of Israeli basketball, the Israeli league, they go through Americans like there's no tomorrow. Like they bring in players on like constantly. And the team that I was on, 3 weeks in, we fired our coach. And then after that, we got rid of an American, got rid of another American. She went to another Israeli team, brought in 2 new Americans at one point. So for this specific country, for Israel, you can only have 2 Americans. Okay. At one point, we had 3 Americans. So it felt like you were trying out to remain on the team. Like because
you can only play 2 in the game.
You can only have 2. And so we had like a practice where there were 3 of us, and it felt like you were trying out for a team. And you're like, am I not like supposed to be here to play basketball for you? And you're making me feel like this is a tryout.
That's ridiculous.
So survive the tryout. So we go through 3 Americans in a span of like a month and a half.
Wow.
And then you're thinking, okay, we're good to go. We're good to go. get rid of another American, bring another one in. Didn't go well, get rid of her. Thinking about, I think maybe we'll just have one American. And I was the only American, like, at that point. There was a Jewish American that was my roommate at the time. So,
Right.
like, we were the two consistent presences from, like, an import standpoint. And so, like, and this is like 4 months in, we had been through like 6 Americans, and we're talking about, are we bringing in another one to like finish out the season, or are we just gonna like let it be at this point?
Yeah.
And we decided to bring in another American for like the
Of
last
course.
week or last 4 weeks of the season, I think.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was a lot. Actually, I think we might be able to have 3 Americans. I think, I don't remember the number, but at one point
Americans are just going through left and right.
I can't even keep track anymore. So that span of like 4 months was like, what is going on? And then like, basketball wise, how do you play through that? You don't even know who you're playing with.
Yes.
So it was crazy. Like, that Israeli experience was like, woo. I look back at it sometimes, and I'll tell my roommate, Drew, we'll just talk about, like, if we can survive 2018 in Israel, we can survive anything. It was wild.
Anything. Truly, that's what you feel like when you go through a crazy overseas experience. Like, if I can get through that,
I can do anything.
With a foreign language, I can get through anything.
Yeah. Are you able to share one of your crazy overseas stories?
Oh man, I have to think. Let me. Okay, I had a Hungarian boyfriend for a week. That.
My gosh. Whoa.
I had a Hungarian boyfriend. I was 24 at the time, and he was 19, but he looked grown. Cougar. He was a fit, tall boy. And we were working out at this gym. My whole team working out this gym that we have. And he was there. And I was like, who was that? I ain't never seen him in Sexside before, because, you know, my town's small. You see everybody. So when I was like, I asked my team, I said, who was that? And she was like,
of course.
You want me to ask you? She wanted me to say something. I was like, you know, like how you're a kid, you know, like, go tell him I have a crush on him. She was like, do you want me to say something? I was like, you don't have to. So she's over there. She was like, okay, I'm gonna go. She goes and, you know, is speaking to him in Hungary and like, hey, this girl thinks you're cute. You know, I'm over there lifting weights like,
oh, look at my biceps.
Getting strong. Trying to look all cute. So, you know, she tells me, she comes back to me and she was like, oh yeah, he's 19. He doesn't really speak much English. Excuse me. But yeah, so if you want to make it happen, I'll make it happen. She was like, I'll give you this Instagram. So I was like, okay. So I got his Instagram. We started messaging. Surprisingly, his English wasn't as bad as I thought, you know, could be. It could have been way worse.
Terrible.
But I knew he was using Google Translate for sure. For him, he was really trying. At first, I was trying to speak in Hungarian to him through translator. I'm like, no, if you're going to be my man, you're going to learn some English. So I invited him to our basketball game. You know, he came over to the game. We won the game. Woo. So he comes out. Me and my teammates decided we're going to go out, eat dinner. And so he sat in the back seat with me as our teammates took us all, you know, to the restaurant because we knew we were going to have a good time. So, you know, we had dinner and it was fun. We drank, we had fun, you know, in Europe, you can be 18 to drink. So it was fun. And then in the back seat, he reached over and kissed me. And I was like, and my teammates were like, ew, Eric. And I'm like, it was him. It was him.
He did it.
Random alcohol, you know, makes you a little more ambitious. So it was cute. I gave him a kiss goodnight. And so everything was great. Sorry, folks are listening. I'm telling long story. So we move on to the next couple of days. You know, this was the hot stuff for the team. The reason why I really pursued this relationship with my ex-Hungarian boyfriend, his name was G. That's his nickname. His first name was Geiger, but we called him G. And so, this is the hot stuff on the team, like it was something for the team to talk about. Sometimes overseas basketball, you're just playing basketball. This is fun for us. It was like he was the team boyfriend. And granted, when you're overseas, you have teammates that are like kids, they're in high school stuff. So I'm like, oh yeah, I know him, Erica. He tried to get at me a couple months ago. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Embarrassed.
I'm a cougar. So this boy falls in love with me after the first date. He was texting me. He wanted to hang out. He wanted me to meet his parents, his sister. And I was like, oh gosh, what did I do? Also, side note, his nickname for me was Era. Etta. Yes, Etta. He called me. I was his Etta. And so all my teammates, when they see me, they're like, hey, Etta, hey, Etta. So anyways, fast forward, we went on a date, another little date before practice. And he was already starting to get on my nerves because he was just too clinky. He had never experienced an American, let alone a Black girl. So, I'm like the freaking goddess out there. I mean, not to just toot my horn, but like really, we look freaking different. There's something that they never experienced before. So for him dating a Black girl, it was like, oh, the Mecca. So he fell in love with me. Yeah. And I had to break his heart. And I told him during, Yep. After 3 days. Yeah. I told him, I said, gee, I'm trying to focus on basketball. I'm sorry. And he was like, but how could you? When you told me that you liked me, do you not? And I was like, gee, he kept dragging him on. Gee, it's done. We're not gonna do it. And he said, and this is my favorite part of my team, he said, Erica, you broke my heart. Because he's speaking through the translator. You broke my heart. I'm as a man, I coming to you and saying that I really liked you and you broke my heart. And I was like, I'm sorry. I need to focus on basketball. And so that was my little romance.
You broke this kid's heart. He's a child, 19 years old, broke his heart. And I love, because I've done it before too, where I'm like, I gotta focus on basketball.
I gotta focus on basketball.
It's such an easy
go-to excuse.
When you just want to be like, yeah, this isn't it. But like, I really have to focus on b-ball,
I have to. This is my career.
And that was only over a 3-day span.
Yep. And so I would see him in the stores and stuff after.
Of course. G's here. I have to go. I have to go down a different aisle. That happened.
And the one time I finally saw him and he saw me and I gave him a little head nod and kept walking.
Kept it pushing. Oh my gosh. Romances and hungry.
That's my crazy overseas story.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for listening. I know that was a long drawn story. My stories are always go with extra details. But I appreciate everyone listening into the first episode of Bird's Eye View, true stories of overseas basketball. I thank my guest, Sydney Wiese, my lovely teammate, my dog for life. You've been great, Sid. Bird. Where can people find you on social media if they want to go? Although you do not participate in social media often, when you do, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram, same username, at SwiesBaby24, SWIESE baby 24. Gotcha. Yeah, Bird has made a couple heartfelt posts and I have left her hanging and I feel so bad about that. But I've just been, I'm just trying out. I'm trying to be real present in my life right now. And so maybe one of these days I'll be back on the social media grind, but Bird's holding it down for both of us.
Thank you, Sid. I'm trying my best. So for people who want to follow the show, we'll be posting some fun content on social media. You can find us at Bird's Eye View _podcast, working on getting Twitter, but for now we'll be on Instagram. So everyone stay tuned. This is fun. I'm really excited about the future of the show. My first guest, Sydney Wiese, had to be my bud. Thank you for listening. This has been great. Ciao, ciao. See ya, how he's saying hungry. How do you say it? How would you say goodbye in Hebrew?
I'll say I'll say good night in good night in Hebrew. Lila Tov.
Lila Tov.
Lila Tov.
Bye, everyone.